Call this meeting of December 7th, 2021 to order. We will stay seated for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the mayor's address. As we gather this evening, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history. And we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all of the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. On behalf of myself and council, I'd like to extend our thanks and appreciation to Donovan and Amanda Well from the Cottage Cup for hosting the tree lighting event and supplying the cronuts and hot chocolate. In addition, I want to thank our fire department volunteers for their support of the event, hanging the lights, putting on the bonfire, and showcasing the municipality's new pumper truck. And also Pembroke Crane for their donation of equipment and time to help decorate the Christmas tree. It was a great turnout and everyone enjoyed the live music by Julie LaRock, visit from Santa Claus, and community connections with friends and neighbors. On November 30th, 2021, council and staff had the pleasure of presenting our Olympian Melissa Bishop with a handcrafted Christmas decoration in recognition of her participation in the 800-meter competition at the Tokyo Olympics. On November 17th, 2021, I attended the first annual Day of Care and Healing. This was a collaborative effort between the mental health team of the Algonquins of Pequotnagon First Nation and Victim Services of Brentford County to honor and commemorate victim and survivors of crime. On November 18th, 2021, I attended the Indigenous Community Awareness Training that was provided by AMO. Both of these events provided insight and awareness of the generational trauma that our Indigenous communities have had to endure and the healing that is necessary. On November 18th, 2021, I attended the Shaw Woods Outdoor Education Center meeting at Shaw Woods. Work to remove beech trees that are dying as a result of beech bark disease is scheduled for January. Signboards explaining why and how this work is being done will be posted at Shaw Woods and on the Shaw Woods website. 44 new number trail location signs have been installed and 5,000 newly updated full color Shaw Woods Outdoor Education Center brochures are available for distribution to various sources. The full report is attached as information. On November 19th, 2021, I attended the opening welcome for the 9th annual Early Childhood Education Professional Day. And on November 24th, 2021, I attended County Council and also the Ottawa Valley Waste Recovery Center meeting. Summary reports are attached as information. So I have a resolution that the December 17th, 2021 Mayor's Address, Shaw Woods Outdoor Education Minutes, and the County Council updates be accepted as presented, and that $250 be provided to the fire department to purchase lights to complete the lighting of the entire tree. And I'm going to move in a second. Moved by Councillor Rector-Schoenfeld, seconded by Councillor Robinson. Comments or questions? Seeing none, Councillor Burnt.
Yes.
Councillor Buckhold.
Yes.
Councillor Robinson.
Yes.
Councillor Rector-Schoenfeld.
Yes.
And a yes. It's carried. Thank you. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? I see none. So move on to the adoption of the minutes. I have a motion that the November 16th, 2021 regular minutes be accepted as presented. Can I get a mover to second, please? Moved by Councillor Burns, seconded by Councillor Buckhold. Any additions, corrections, or omissions? Seeing none, Councillor Burns.
Yes.
Councillor Buckhold.
Yes.
Councillor Robinson.
Yes.
Councillor Rector-Schoenfeld.
Yes.
And yes, it's carried. Thank you. So item number 7 is our reports. I have a motion in regards to Festus voucher that council provides each employee with a voucher not to exceed $25 per person, and that any unclaimed vouchers be donated to the local food bank. Can I get a move in a second, please? Moved by Councilor Robinson, seconded by Councilor Schonfeld. Comments or questions? Councilor Schonfeld.
Who falls into the volunteer category?
That would be the fire department.
Okay. So it's not like any of the committee people, just the volunteer fire.
Just the volunteer fire.
Any other questions? Seeing none, Councilor Burnt.
But that covered, we didn't have any, I was thinking of the recreation committee with some one.
Councilor Burnt.
Yes.
Councilor Buckle.
Yes.
Councilor Robinson.
Yes.
Councilor Schonfeld.
Yes,
And a yes, carried. Thank you. So more from that 7.2 that the November library and CEO reports be accepted as presented. Can I then move in a seconder? Moved by Councilor Burnt, seconded by Councilor Schonfeld. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, Councilor, oh, sorry, Councilor Schonfeld.
I was just wondering how they define an active versus a inactive. Like an active patron, what's an active patron, would you say? Like, does that mean they've gone to the library like 5 times or 6 times?
No, so it's based on the membership, because you have to renew your membership.
Okay, thanks.
Councilor Burnt.
Marie, I just read a voucher about grain farms to raise funds. One thing maybe that we try to chase these. Oops.
It's considered chance. So that's one of the reasons why we lost a lot.
Okay.
So one of the things that we're planning to do is send out asks to the patrons, and also get that in with the tax letters, because that's sort of more.
Any other questions? Yes.
The silent auction,
Yes.
there's also the one that was done just recently, is also very well received. So, a lot of activity.
Do they have a fundraising goal
There, we were just gonna do it, I think on Friday, just sort of get
Okay.
but they're saying that it needs probably about $2,000. So,
yet? Okay, Councilor Burnt.
Yes.
Councilor Buckle.
Yes.
Councilor Robinson.
yes,
Councilor Schonfeld.
Yes,
And a yes. Carried. Thank you. Item 7.3 is the 1-2-3 green program. I have a motion that council accepts this report as information and adopts the 1-2-3 green program. Can I get a move in a second? Moved by Councilor Buckle, seconded by Councilor Robinson. Comments or questions? Councilor Schonfeld.
I was just wondering if we should include volunteers also, and not just staff. I'm thinking of the fire department, because they do.
Through the mayor, the fire department is included in this.
Okay, Chris.
So it's the idea is to get everybody involved
Okay,
and to have the solution from within. So the fire department is included in this.
okay, just because on the other, where we did the vouchers, it was staff and volunteers, so that's why I thought here it would be staff and volunteers also. Thank you.
I think it's a great idea. I know a lot of other municipalities are looking at initiatives to promote more of a green movement going forward. So I'll call the vote. Councilor Burnt.
Yes.
Councilor Buckle.
Yes.
Councilor Robinson.
yes.
Councilor Schonfeld.
Yes,
And yes, that's very good. Item 7.4 is the consent application B74 2-1 for Solvay. I have a motion that council accepts the report as information. Can I get a mover and a second? Moved by Councilor Burt, seconded by Councilor Buckland. Comments or questions? Seeing none, Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Buckland,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Schultz,
Yes,
and yes, that's carried. Thank you. Item 7.5 is consent application B 104-21 for Pellerin. I have a motion that council accepts the report as information, and I got a mover and a seconder, moved by Councilor Buckland, seconded by Councilor Burns. Comments or questions? Councilor Schultz.
in the report, in the last paragraph, it says, no planning concerns were identified and consent application was granted with the condition that applicants enter into a development agreement. I'm just wondering what that is and is it extensive?
So through the mayor, I'd have to say that that information can come back to the next meeting because Ms. Mandeville created this report, so I really don't have any information on what this particular one is. But the extent of it would be.
Thank you.
I can provide a little information because I asked the same question of Ms. Mandeville, and she said because normally you're allowed 5 severances,
Right.
and because it's now over the 5, they have to enter in the development agreement with the county, and it's just part of the process for the granting over the 5 severances.
I thought that's maybe what it was. The other, do you know, is that like is there a fee associated?
I don't know if there's a fee, like she would have to provide that information.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Buckland,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Schultz. Thank you. Item 7.6 is a request to purchase shoreline road allowance and unopened road allowance. I have a motion that council approves the sale of only the shoreline road allowance adjacent to the property owned by Charlotte and Jackie Shaven, described as part lot 28, concession 11, geographic township of Wilberforce. Can I get a move in a second, please? Moved by Councilor Buckland, seconded by Councilor Burns. Questions or comments? Seeing none, Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Buckland,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Schultz,
Yes,
and a yes, it's carried. Thank you. Item 7.7 is the RFQ award. I have a motion that council authorizes the mayor to sign an agreement with TGT Solutions for the strategic plan review of $2,500 plus HST. And I got a mover and a seconder, moved by Councilor Burns, seconded by Councilor Buckland. Comments or questions? Councilor Schultz.
I think it's too early to spend this much money on a review. So in my case, I'll be voting against it. I'd like that $2,500 plus HST to go to another project we might be doing. It'd be nice if we could just sit down around the table and we could talk about our strategic plan and what we believe has happened in the last maybe 10 months. But spending that much money on something that's not even into a year, it seems wasteful.
Any other comments? I guess would add that I think it's good to have a third party take a look at it. Just, it's a great measurement of the progress we've made. Yes, we probably have an idea ourselves as council, but it's, I think, nice to have a third party look at it to see how did we follow the objectives? Are they complete? Are they in progress? Or have they not started? And I think helps us make some decisions for budgeting moving forward. Anyway, I will call, yes, Councilor Robertson.
When is this targeted to be completed, this review?
I'm gonna have to ask Andrew if he has.
So for the mayor, we originally planned to have this done before the end of December, but now that we're in December, it would be mid-January that we will have.
So it's still in time for the budget.
It would still be in time for budget deliberation.
Call the vote, Councilor Byrd,
No,
Councilor Buckland,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Reichel,
No,
I'm a yes, that's carried. So that brings us to correspondence and non-action items. 9.1.1 to 9.1.7 be accepted as information. And I'm gonna move it a second. Moved by Councilor Buckwalter, seconded by Councilor Robinson. Councilor Burns,
yes,
Councilor Buckwalter,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Reichel,
yes,
yes, it's carried. Thank you. Item 9.2.1 is table. We've been missing a page on the agenda, but I can follow on. I can follow on the screen. So I have a motion that members of council who wish to attend the AMO Navigating Conflict Relationships online training inform the clerk treasurer by Friday, December 10th to be registered for their preferred date. Can I get a mover to second, please? Moved by Councilor Robinson, seconded by Councilor Reichel. Comments or questions? Seeing none, Councilor Burns,
yes,
Councilor Buckwalter,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Reichel,
yes,
and yes, it's carried. Thank you. Item 9.2.2 is a 2022 Platinum Jubilee for Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. I have a motion that staff be directed to submit an application for funding through the 2022 Platinum Jubilee Fund for a tree planting initiative in honor of Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth II for her 70-year reign. And I got a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councilor Burns, seconded by Councilor Robinson. Comments or questions? Yes, Andrew.
Being that this was put on today, a couple of weeks ago, we had a direction from council to go forward with the tree planting program and to look for funding. This actually fits for the funding. The maximum is $5,000. We believe that if we launch a program on the Queen's birthday, which I think is the 17th of April, and have the actual tree planting on the anniversary of the coronation, which I think is the first week of June, it would work out well timing, so we could do it in honor of the Queen's 70th anniversary of her coronation. So if that works for council, it does allow us to find some funding for that tree planting.
When would we know about the success of the grant?
I'm not sure when we will find out, but as council's already committed money, it would be something that we could get or we couldn't get, and maybe if we're lucky, we'll find it quite sure.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, Councilor Burns,
yes,
Councilor Buckwalter,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Reichel,
yes,
and yes. Carried. Thank you. I have a motion Item 13.1, which is the Joint Municipal Physician Recruitment and Retention Committee, at the September draft Joint Physician Recruitment and Retention Committee minutes be accepted as presented. Can I get a move in a second? Moved by Councilor Township, seconded by Councilor Buchwald. Comments or questions? Seeing none, Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Buchwald,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Township,
Yes,
and yes, Sarah, thank you. And 14.1 is the vaccination policy. I have a resolution, the council adopts the vaccination policy as amended, sorry, the vaccine policy as amended. Can I get a mover to seconder? Moved by Councilor Burns, seconded by Councilor Robinson. Comments or questions? Councilor Buchwald.
I still have some concerns with the policy as presented. This evening.
Can we bring the new policy up, please?
Basically, the policy still requires that all current staff and all future staff are required to submit proof of vaccination to condition of higher employment. I'm just not comfortable with that as a requirement. That we're telling somebody that you have to have specific medical treatment to be an employee here. That's the first one. The second issue that I have is the antigen testing that's proposed that would be at the employee's expense. I don't believe that's appropriate as well. And the one that really that kills it for me is we still have penalties in here, which is basically places a member on unpaid leave of absence for refusing the medical treatment. And to me, that one's a deal breaker. I'm not prepared to restrict somebody's employment, either current or future, by making them bow to our desire for medical wishes. I've seen people have to make that decision between taking a treatment that they really didn't want and didn't feel that they needed, and basically did it to keep their job. And I don't believe that that's right, and I don't believe that's within our moral authority to impose on our workers.
Any other, Councilor Richardson?
so the policy scope, it would be nice to say volunteer firefighters. I know they're volunteers, but I always see volunteers as people, let's say, on the rec committee or people on the gristmill, the Wilkins Trail, as those as committee, as volunteers. And then I also have a problem with the fact that in some cases, they're only asking people to test once a week. And then I do have a problem with the making the employees pay for it, simply because one time when we were doing some budget deliberations and we were talking, we're like, we don't want the employees to go home with less money than they had before. So in this case, we're asking them to buy the test, and the test is expensive. So if the person decides they want to work here, they're going to be out of pocket. And I'm not sure if we're still getting COVID monies, but to me, I'm definitely against the part where we're asking our employees to pay for a test.
Actually, and it's up here now on testing, it says at the bottom, testing will be paid by the employer until March 26th. So it will be paid and reviewed, I guess, after 26th of March. Yes, and
So just information on that. The province, and I know things are fluid and change, announced that the bulk of their restrictions would be taken off on the 26th of March. And that's why that date came up. And council did ask for the paid testing. Also in the policy, we scroll back up, it's every 2 weeks for the testing, or as directed by the treasurer.
Councilor Robinson.
Just as a note, there are free tests being given out to the chamber, which is provided by the province. So it's just a matter of picking those up and using that
Where would they pick them up?
at the chamber.
In Pembroke? And I do believe the policy does say that you don't have to provide proof, but if you choose not to, then you have to do the weekly testing, so. It's not forcing somebody to have to submit the test. I think, yeah,
Sorry.
Whoever may recognize this.
So my problem still is the fact that we don't know what's gonna happen on March 26th, and we pass a policy, and then there's no recourse by saying, well, now you guys have to pay, it's after March 26th. I mean, we're looking into the future there, and we don't know why that date is there, and we do know, like, from past practices where they said things are gonna open up, and then it was delayed because the number of cases and things were supposed to happen, and it was once again, but I mean, why put a date in period?
To answer the council's question, item number 10 amendments does say that the policy will be updated based on the evolving nature of the pandemic. So if things change, the dates change.
But to me, if testing is required, testing is required, so, I mean, why even put, just say that the test will be covered by the employer? I don't think we even need a date in there. If things do change and all of a sudden the next never around, then we don't want to get them tested all the time. Or then we go from 2 a week to 1 a week. I mean, we can make that decision. I don't think putting that date in there is necessary.
yes,
So for the mayor, staff can just eliminate that date if it's required.
Councilor Robinson?
I know that section 10 does say that it will be reviewed, but it's almost, I would like whatever the motion is recommended, that if it's included in there, that it is expected to be brought back to council.
And further that, I think it's really important that we put a date in, that we're going to review it, not just when. We could say the beginning of May, we could say March the 26th. It's important that we actually have a fixed date, so then we can say, today we're reviewing our COVID policy, as opposed to just leaving it open-ended.
Andrew?
So through the mayor, and I know there's disagreement with whether we should have a policy or not have a policy. It is proven that we do have a policy, that's the medical law, so health told us. The policy presented, and we did mirror slightly the counter for percent of county's policy. We put a couple of things in there, but for example, essential services, emergencies, so the fire chief and the public works superintendent bring staff in without having testing. What I'd suggest to council, this would be some sort of a comfort and compromise for council, is put this policy in place as it stands for a 2-month period with a review, as the council said, with date. And basically there's no cost to employees through this period. And if it's something that things have escalated, then continue. But if it's not, and council wishes to change, then you've got 2 months to think about it.
So we could make the date our April meeting date, regular meeting date, whichever that may be.
I would suggest for the, because of the, and I'm not trying, I don't mind going longer, but I suggest because of the discussion that council has, make the date at 2-month intervals, if you want to do that, to put 2-month intervals. And then council has the ability to visit this every 2 months.
Councilor Buckwalter and Councilor Fisher.
I hear what the CIO was saying, but as long as we have a section in that we're going to potentially put staff on unpaid leave of absence under this policy, I will support that with any meeting. I don't feel that's appropriate. And there are other municipalities that are acting the same way, and then I do agree that yes, we should have a policy, and I believe the province requires the board to have COVID-related policy in place, and I'm all for that. But something that's going to potentially affect someone's livelihood. And even without the discussions about the effectiveness of vaccines and all that, you know, I realize that they're part of the tool chest for fighting this. But I just can't support something that puts somebody in that position of choosing between their livelihood and feeding their family or getting a shot that they don't need or want.
But the other option is they can agree to the testing every week. They can make the choice not to get the shot, they can make the choice not to submit their vaccination information, but then they have to do the weekly testing.
Actually, the way this policy is written in section 7, that's not what it says. It said that they have to provide proof of first and second vaccination doses, vaccine hesitancy training, submission of rapid antigen test results, and request accommodation, which means that under interpretation, you would have to do all 4 of those things. The way that the policy is written.
That's right, Michelle.
To me, that 4th bullet is kind of problematic. What is the accommodation due to the vaccine exemption? I mean, basically, there's only 2 reasons why you should get a vaccine exemption. And the other problem too I have with the rapid test, there's no reason why if there was a fire department issue or there was a public works issue, why the person couldn't take the test before they came. Because basically the test, the one I took, takes about 15 minutes. So, I mean, we're trying to keep everybody safe. So to me, if we went ahead with the policy, there shouldn't be, well, if it's an emergency, then we don't have to worry about it. To me, the firefighters should be taking the test bi-weekly because we never know when there will be a fire emergency, or an emergency that's not a fire, but still an emergency. And in terms of public works people, I'm just speaking for my husband, and the people on the snowplow trucks, they don't know when they're gonna get called out. It's not like every Monday it's gonna happen. So to me, everybody who's not vaccinated should be taking the rapid test if we choose twice a week, or if we decide once a week, but everybody should do it. And like the one where it says request for accommodation, I'm not sure what that would look like due to that, because the way I heard, the only 2 reasons why you would be exempt is if you had a terrible reaction when you took your first COVID vaccine, or if you had some kind of issue related to taking vaccines in general. There's no like religious exemption, there's no other exemptions.
I think primarily it is a medical exemption that if you did have a medical exemption, the employer, correct me if I'm wrong, you would have to provide accommodations.
The employer has to provide accommodation for both medical exemption and human rights exemption.
Through the mayor, though, is there actually a human rights exemption for COVID?
I don't know if it's, I guess it hasn't been tested. At this point, there isn't, or hasn't been granted.
The province has basically said that there are 2 reasons, and that's the medical ones. But again, no one's tested yet, but there are religions out there that don't allow medical treatments. So that one just hasn't been, like you say, hasn't been argued yet or brought forward, and I think the government would lose that one. Based on decisions that have been made in the past about people not giving their children medical treatments, even though they put them in big danger.
That's right, Michelle.
But through the mayor, that's something for the government to decide. It wouldn't be our township or municipality or Frankfurt County. That's something that's way beyond us. So in terms of when I think of a medical exemption currently for any employee or volunteer we have, it would be, or sorry, an exemption for the COVID. it would be a medical reason, i.e. severe anaphylactic to vaccinations, or B, had a terrible reaction to the first dose they took.
So I guess, well, and just in response to Council Buckwell's comment about enforcement, I do believe it has to have enforcement, because if somebody shows up at work with symptoms and they're working beside somebody, and I mean, the person they're working beside has no idea whether or not they're vaccinated, there has to be some mechanism that the employer has to manage that situation. Yes, Councilor Buckwell.
And trying to see where I saw it, but I believe there was a section in here about someone showing up with symptoms. That may be also there, but elsewhere. But yes, if someone shows up with symptoms, they absolutely shouldn't be coming into work, but that's not what the enforcement of Section 7 refers to. It doesn't refer to symptoms. It refers to your vaccination status, test results, and so forth. And I can't support them.
Councilor Recchi.
So when I go into the school, before I go, I have to go onto the ministry website, and then I have to answer 8 questions. And if I answer them, like I have a cold, I've been around somebody with COVID, whatever, I don't get the check mark to go to school that day. So I mean, if we're worried about someone, let's say not disclosing the fact they're sick, maybe we need them to do a checklist, something similar to what we fill in at the beginning of every council meeting. I know my son Jordan goes to the hospital every day. He has to fill out a checklist, and if he doesn't pass it, he doesn't go to work. If we're trying to prevent somebody coming into our township, working when they should be at home because they're sick. I see, and I think it's important that we have a vaccine, and that somebody's telling us we need to have one. We've got to make sure the one that we have works for everyone.
Yes,
Just for information for council, staff have been filling out the daily sheet for more.
And through the mayor, I didn't know that, and simply then we shouldn't have somebody coming to work sitting beside somebody that is sick, because that would be taken care of there.
Councilor Buckwell.
So through the mayor, a question for staff. So if staff have been self-monitoring themselves before they come into work and doing the same checklist questionnaire that we do as we come in, have we had any issues with infections within the workplace? Without identifying any individuals, have we had any?
So through the mayor, there have been no COVID proven issues that we've had at this workplace.
So my comment from there would be that, yes, we need a policy, but I don't think we need to have a policy that threatens to basically send someone home if they don't comply. I think we can find a policy that simply says the township endorses and recommends that staff get vaccinations. But I'm thinking back to something that happened in our first year when we had a tree canopy bylaw that had no restrictions in it, and we couldn't get that passed without changing it. Something that put no restrictions on anybody, but here we are considering a bylaw on our own people that's going to send them home without pay. I just can't fathom that. I really can't. In this day and age, with the information that's out there, we know the precautions that work. We know that personal protective equipment and infection control practices, infection control equipment, it works. We know that what we've done so far in the workplace here is working. So why would we put something in place that's potentially going to penalize staff for exercising their rights on their own medical care?
It's only enforcement in the event that they don't want to get they don't want to provide proof of the vaccination, they don't want to provide the fact that they may or may not have the vaccination, and they have decided they don't want to do weekly testing. It's not like we're taking away their choices.
No, we're just not gonna let them feed the families until they choose what we want them to choose. I'm sorry, on a philosophical level, Mr. Mayor, I just am totally opposed to that. I understand the desire to have a policy that protects all of our workers. But quite frankly, this is not about protecting the workers. This is about a policy that crosses T's and dots I's to make the province happy, that is not going to have any valid, legitimate effect on workplace safety any more than what we're already doing. And adding the potential of disciplinary staff.
Councilor Bird.
I have to agree with Councilor Buckwell. I have a hard time facing people on taking these actions. Because down the road from here, in a short time, we can have a major snowfall and be short of front drive of power roads. Like it's, to say something like that in the policy is forcing people to do maybe the wrong thing. And I think we have enough things in there. I think Andrew said about the report they do every day when they come in. If you're not doing it, you don't come into work. Any place you go, you have to be asked 8 questions. If you go for blood work or a doctor's office, they ask you the same questions. Do you feel sick? Do you have a fever? And we're doing that. Like, to say we're going to put somebody on unpaid leave of absence. I have to disagree with that.
Councilor Robinson.
Can we take out, I would suggest that we take out the being placed on and unpaid leave of absence. Because that's the fundamental issue. Because if a person was filling out the form and their symptoms are showing being compromised, they would be sent home. They would not be allowed to be in. Now, would they be allowed to go? Are they going to be sent home and not paid? Or they're just going to be sent home and paid? I'm just looking at the scenario that we have now. Because if somebody comes in and the checklist and they did not pass all the questionnaire, for example, what would, and I guess through you, Mayor, to staff, what would be the action now?
So through the mayor, we haven't had that instance quite a while, but we're again being very cautious. We had a couple of instances where people earlier in the pandemic didn't feel well, and we asked them to stay home and we paid for them to be home. Now, these didn't extend to weeks, it extended to shorter periods of time, and some of them were able to accommodate the work pattern.
And I think that's I'm thinking that is a scenario that we need to look at.
And just one additional point to ponder or consider. So I think we all have to do our due diligence and making sure that we keep ourselves and the people around us safe. And we do that by maybe getting double vaccinated. We do that hopefully by wearing our masks diligently all the time, hopefully hand sanitizing, hopefully social distancing, and not getting ourselves into a position where we might be exposed. The other thing is, I know a couple of people who were doubly vaccinated, but were concerned because they just felt they were sick and they wanted to go visit their elderly grandparent. They actually bought the test just to see if they did have COVID or not. I'm saying as another point to ponder is, and now they're going to send home hopefully all students at Christmas time with some testing kits, right? Is maybe we have to make kits available to all our employees. So I'm not feeling so good. Maybe I could have been exposed to COVID. Maybe I take the test, you know, and then maybe I'm negative. But I just think we're gonna spend lots of money on this, something that maybe we could still keep ourselves safe. We could provide tests for the people, and I'm not feeling good. Let's take the test. No, I'm okay, it's just a cold, and then we go. You know, we have to feel that all the employees here and ourselves are honest and trustworthy and have integrity. So we don't want to abuse the system, nor do we want to put anybody else at risk. So now it's like Big Brother, where we're telling our employees what they need to do, and if they don't do that, then there's going to be a major consequence. You know, and I agree with Councillor Buckwald. It just feels like we're being the heavy here, and should we be the heavy? No, we shouldn't be the heavy. Everybody should be working together. And maybe there's other ways we can work together, providing tests for people to take home, so if they're already filling out a piece of paper saying, you know, yeah, I'm feeling sick, no, I'm not feeling sick, yeah, you got the green check mark, you're ready to go.
Yes, Andrew.
So I would just recommend the council, because you're discussing item 7, enforcement. That you pass the policy and exclude item 7, and this instruct staff to bring back an enforcement policy component. To another meeting, that you at least have your policy in place.
Is that something council could agree with?
Are we changing that, taking that March date there?
Go ahead, Councilor.
I think my understanding was that it was, we were going to be reviewing it every 2 months.
So before, I would like to table this then until we see what the changes are, and that little whatever we're gonna put in, reviewing it every 2 months, or what we're gonna do. I mean, I just wanted a good comment.
Councilor Buckwald.
If I have a suggestion, Mr. Mayor, perhaps it's something that the individual member of the council could go over before our next meeting and return comments to the staff of things that they would much like to see stricken or maybe amended. I like Councilor Rick Schenkel's idea of the providing ad hoc testing kits for our staff. If we were to do something like that, then it wouldn't matter whether the person was vaccinated or not. If they had concerns, they could test before coming into work, or they could test when they got here. Because again, results are very quick before they interact with someone. They can test them if they're unwell, and they will have a proper test, like an in-depth test, and then that turns this entire policy into a one-pager. All right, our policy would be, we encourage staff to get the shot. If whether or not you choose to, we're going to make test kits available for, again, a certain amount of time. If you feel unwell or feel you need to test yourself before coming in. And put the onus for their self-protection on them. I believe we meet our responsibilities, and it would actually be something more effective, because now, as opposed to relying on the vaccination status, which again, we don't know with boosters, how do we address boosters down the road? This way, if someone's feeling unwell or symptomatic, here, do a test before you come into the workplace. And I think that would do more to protect our staff than anything else that we have in this document.
I think what we need to consider though is we've put this policy off for over a month now. We do need a policy. And the longer we keep putting it off, we don't have anything in place then. I hear your comment about providing the test kit. The only thing is those tests are not a definitive yes or no that you have COVID. You still have to go and get your PCR test. So, I mean, this is a policy that the feds have developed in conjunction and the province and the county and the medical officer of health. And I don't know if we can just pass it without the enforcement. I don't think we have to rewrite the whole policy. Councilor Burr.
You just brought up that the feds passed this policy, and last week on the news, the town of Petawawa had sent a number of workers home from the Canada Post Office in Petawawa at the busiest time of the year. Like, is it a good policy that they pass? I have to disagree with that. Like, they're sending people home from work because of vaccines. I have a hard time with that.
And just looking at this policy, Mr. Mayor, section 5 refers to testing. We'd still be requiring testing of unvaccinated staff, even without section 7. So we're still mandating something which is fine, we choose to do that down the road. Testing is one thing, right? Vaccination is another, and penalizing is another. I think we can go for 2 more weeks if we can come up with something. Or the other option is we go over it tonight at this meeting and make the changes right here. If we can council to agree on the changes. But I know from my perspective, this bylaw, I'm not going to go for it. Sorry, it's passing.
I would, for myself, I would go for it if no stuff is taken out.
Are you making that a motion?
I can.
Friendly amendment, section 5 as well.
The section 5 is basically what we've been talking about, which is basically doing the rapid antigen test.
Yeah.
So that I think should stay in.
On their own time at their own expense.
Not at their own expense.
We already agreed we would pay for it.
Yes.
All right, just the other.
Yes, so that needs to be taken out. Because the tests can be delivered free through the province.
That's a different.
So what I would like personally is the dropping of number 7 and switching the wording in number 5. Okay, which would somehow include that we are going to look this over at certain periods of time, with defined time, like, you know, whenever we decided that.
Well, we decided that this would be every 2 months.
But I'd like it written down.
Yes, I understand. That's part of the motion. That this policy would be written 2 months.
So you've moved to amend 5 and remove 7.
That's correct.
Do we have a seconder for that?
Just like through.
Just before I second it. What's going to be the new wording in 5? We're taking out. That's really what I'm trying to have.
I think we're gonna need a new motion, actually.
I think where it
It's
says
more than just a friendly amendment at this point.
Yeah.
So,
because what it's saying here is complete the rapid antigen test at their own expense, which conflicts to what we had said in another section where that it's going to be at the employer.
but it does say right at the bottom, testing will be paid for by the employer.
Okay, so it's just this.
Testing will be paid by the employer and reviewed every 2 months.
Yes. Which should be sort of speak to both of those. That would be.
So for section 5, the only change we made was take it at their own expense.
No, we're gonna leave that because at the bottom it states in it that the employer will be paying doing.
The employer will pay for the testing and it will be reviewed every 2 months.
Instead of until March 22.
Yeah,
That's correct.
And deleting section 7 in its entirety.
Yes.
Councilor Red change was something else like second.
well, we need to move in the seconder before we can move to discussion on it, so.
try moving it.
I'll second it.
Okay. Moved by Councilor Robinson, seconded by Councilor Buckles. Councilor Richardson.
So do we need anything in this policy and procedure that says what if a person does get COVID and they are sent home from work, if they're paid or unpaid?
That's,
Does that have to be-
that's gonna be coming back to the mayor.
That's where staff was.
That's,
going to,
we'll come
bring
back
some
with
wording
some,
on
With the enforcement?
Yes.
enforcement, yes.
If they did have COVID, then I think for sick leave should continue.
Mhm.
I believe so.
So I wouldn't have that as a concern. Assuming there's enough sick time to cover it, not have to develop something for that.
You're working on some wording, Andrew.
Mhm.
Yes.
And
Councilor Buckles.
just a question, are we still going to continue that any new employees have to provide proof of vaccination as a condition of hire? Are we maintaining that requirement?
I believe we are.
I believe that be important to do. Because we are looking at hiring someone in the future, correct? I don't see that being an issue. Okay. I can live with that in 2 months. More overview.
Yeah.
Because I don't even know if this affects any staff currently, but I just. On an ethical or moral level, I just can't justify supporting that.
So Laura, you have the mover and seconder for this new resolution then?
I do, but should we not defeat the original? Because this is a different.
That's right, yes, because it was moved and seconded as well, so.
So the mover and seconder has to be us.
Or we can just vote on it, we can just vote on it and defeat it.
Yeah.
The council's okay with that, so I'll call the vote. Councilor Burns? No. Councilor Buckles?
No.
Councilor Robinson?
No,
Councilor Richardson?
No,
I mean, yes, I still agree with it. The motion is defeated. For the new resolution that was moved by Councilor Robinson and seconded by Councilor Buckles, reads that council adopts the vaccine policy as amended with the removal of section 7. And that the policy be reviewed in 2 months by council, and further that there be no requirement for employees to pay for testing. Councilor Burns,
Yes,
Councilor Buckles,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
yes,
Councilor Richardson.
yes,
Okay, so that's carried. I'm a no, but that's carried. So 9. Sorry, where are we? 9 point, or we're at 15? Okay. So I have a motion that council go into closed session at 8:00 p.m. for two personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. One, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. And one, the purpose of educating or training the members. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councilor Ricky Schoenfeld, seconded by Councilor Buckland. Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Buckland,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Ricky Schoenfeld,
Yes.
and a yes, that's carried. Good.